Hey guys, welcome to the Tantric Aspirant. Today I'm gonna speak about my experience in making a pilgrimage and how I perceive my life as being a pilgrimage, an inner one in itself. I was inspired by a story I heard, and I felt that was something that my soul really longed to experience and to live in this life. So without any preparation, and right now you are seeing me with my weight is more or less 57-60 kilos, and back then, which was 3 years ago, something like that, I was 45 kilos. So there's nothing wrong with that, but I was very thin for my size, and had zero physical preparation for what I was doing, which was a bit irresponsible, and I wouldn't recommend people to just do that. But I had this very big longing in my heart and calling, I would say. And so I just left. I didn't sleep because I was the whole night thinking how crazy and how bad idea this could be. And then I put a backpack and I left. It was very rainy in that period of the year. It's a month in which people usually don't do these kind of things. They don't really go on a pilgrimage. But I wanted very much to do that. So I went from Lisbon to Fatima, for those of you who know, in Portugal, by foot. My rule, let's say, was to use very few resources. So eat only when necessary, and what necessary, almost don't spend any money as if I don't have. And to do it by foot, the best I could. And I was ready kind of to sleep on the street. But I was advised by one of my teachers that it was probably not a very good idea. So I always had to try to find a place to sleep for free and in a safe way. Usually when you make a pilgrimage, you have a purpose. Like people say there is a karma they want to burn. And I had mine. I'm not going to share what it was because I don't think it's meaningful for any of you. But I had a purpose. I had a clear purpose that I wanted to overcome in myself, and I dedicated that to that purpose, to learn that lesson or to kind of burn some karma for the mistakes I did related with that lesson. And then I started my journey. I had some music on the background just to kind of connect with my heart a bit more. It's a good technique you can also use. So I left the house and I started to walk, and of course in the beginning it's easy. You were just silently walking, and you're still very fresh, your body is very good. So I was fasting on that day, meaning I was not eating anything and I was just drinking water because I had this practice of fasting every Wednesday, and it was on a Wednesday, and I kept walking and walking. And then when I was reaching the first checkpoint, let's say, where I had established that I would sleep during that first night, which was after, I don't remember if 12 or 14 hours walking, so it was still quite a lot, but I was fresh, so it was not a problem. And then I found this, I don't know the name in English, but this place where the firemen sleep, like firemen, I hope you say that. I had to go and check the word, it's firemen. So it was these places that I always had to try to ask if I could sleep there, because usually it's for free and it's a safe place, kind of. It's not like as if you are sleeping on the street. Especially me being a woman, it would be maybe a bit dangerous to do that. And then the second day started, and of course I was already a bit tired, my legs were already not in the best shape, but still quite good. And I continued to walk, and after a few hours I started to have a catharsis moment. So I would just start crying very much, and I had to verbalize some things. So for many cars I looked like a complete lunatic speaking alone. I don't know, whatever they thought. But I had to take it out, and I felt I was in this deep actually talk with myself, with my higher self, and with God. I believe very much in God. Of course, each person I feel can relate to it how they feel. Some people call it the creator, some people call it the universe, some people call it the supreme source. I mean, like I said, you can relate how you feel. But for me, I will call it God just because it's how I relate to it, and it's simple for me to do it like that. I had many questions, but I couldn't really not have that faith. It was just something that I feel I always had. And for me, believing in God is very different than fitting in religions and in dogmas and this kind of I'm not talking about something made out of people, let's say, and this kind of institutions. I'm talking about something that is beyond that, and that gives meaning to all of this, and I will call it God from now on. So for me, it was all about this relationship between me and the universe, between me and God, and me and myself, my deeper self. So all the masks fall off, all the things, especially when you are very under pressure and physical pain. It makes you a certain trigger in this case to not self-induce or don't do crazy stuff and take you to that place. What I'm saying in this kind of experience, because I was very tired, and physically it was requiring a lot of sacrifice and a lot of effort. And of course my legs were hurting like crazy, my feet were with these bubbles, it was very, very difficult at some point to walk. And I remember to sit on the side of the street and to think, I cannot do this. Like I go back, why? And then starts the questions, what was I thinking? What am I doing? So this was a bit my second day. Oh my God, I lost my mind. They were right. This is insane. Like, I'm not even physically prepared for this. And then to just get up and go. Like, you just don't stop. You just focused, one single pointed mind. I had my goal. I was visualizing. I'm going to reach there. I'm going to make it. And I had this aspiration to reach that place as fast as I could. So not to take endlessly and make a trip out of it. That was a mission of sacrifice, of being able to overcome my limitations and not for enjoying. And yeah, I went on a pilgrimage and I stopped to have a beer and give a props to the family or friends in the way or something. No, it was actually me silently going with all my heart and this state of communion in the best I can with God, towards this goal of reaching that place, Fatima. And for those of you who don't know, Fatima was where Mother Mary appeared to the 3 pastors, and it's a very beautiful and meaningful event that you can search about. I think more or less everyone heard about it in one way or another. And so I wanted very much to go there and to visit the exact place, because usually the famous place in Fatima that people go, it's not exactly where it's said that she showed up. So I wanted to go, it's a little bit near in Valinhos, for who knows, and I wanted to go exactly to that place, the tree, the place exactly where she appeared, and that would be my final checkpoint, let's say. So I kept going, and my second day was to go through all this self-doubt and all these I cannot do it and all these questions, and to connect, to start to go into myself. Because when you cannot speak and when you're silent, we are so distracted nowadays with phone, with being externalized all the time. That's why now with Corona many people are at home freaking out because they cannot deal with themselves. They are not used to be alone or to be so confronted with having very few distractions. And for me this was a shock. No one to talk with, and I was just me with my own wonderful qualities and also my own shit. So my second day was a bit more challenging, and I reached the next point crying like crazy and with fever even, and completely like smashed physically. Like I didn't know how was I on earth going to make it until the last place, because I was literally surviving in survival mode just to reach the place to sleep that night. And I arrived already late there was no light outside anymore. And I remember I had a part of the family that was living there. It's like they're not very close, but they were people I knew. And I called and I asked, look, I'm doing this pilgrimage. Would you mind if I would just crash on your couch just for a few hours and take a shower and maybe eat some food and then manage to continue? I don't want to like socialize and speak much. this is the purpose of what I'm doing, but to at least have a place to stay. And they said, yes, of course, come by, Yeah, and this was one of the biggest challenge of all. So I went, and they were super sweet, and I'm also deeply grateful for them because it was a key factor in the whole thing. I managed to take a shower and to have a bathroom and to sleep in a bed. But I remember I arrived, and they have like these two small kids, and the kids were coming to me, of course, because they, it was a new person, and they wanted to play and so on. And my legs were not responding. Like, it was one of the scariest experiences also. Like, I was sitting down in their sofa. I was sending the signal to my legs to move, let's say. And my legs were not moving. Simply. It never happened to me before or after. And I started to be aware that my body was collapsing in a way. Like, I needed really to rest because I was reaching a physical limit. And then I dragged myself to the bed, but of course they cared about me very much, and seeing me in this bad shape, of course they started to say, it's not a shame to just stop and realize you were not ready, you can try again next time, and all these influences. When you make such a commitment and when you have this higher goal, of course you attract some kind of challenges, and this was one of them that I had to surpass. And it manifested actually in a theoretically good way. From their heart they were trying to make me see if I could really continue. We can pick you up anytime, and you can even stay here and prolong it and just stay one more day and then you go. And I just had this feeling inside of me, even if you go out and you give one step and you crash, you have to leave now. So I slept that night, and as soon as I woke up, and of course they continue, but you can stay more, I said, no, I'm leaving. And really, I was better, but I could still barely move. And so I started to walk again, and at this point, my inner connection, let's say, with all of me, with all my challenges, with all my mental garbage, with all my issues, started to be much more obvious. And also the level of trust and surrender and faith and willpower and love in my heart for God actually started to be much more intense and challenging at the same time. And I only managed to walk for 45 minutes. It was better than nothing. So after 45 minutes I reached the next city and this fireman station there where I could spend the night. They were always very sweet and very welcoming. They probably thought I was completely nuts, but they still embraced me and let me stay there and gave me kind of a blanket to just stay on the floor there somewhere, which was very sweet. And then on that day I was very much connected with humbleness. I realized how many times we think we are invincible and we are so great and we are so in control of everything, and actually we are so small in a way. Not to put down our existence in any way, but you realized how without that huge force and huge alignment with God, you're actually quite small, and how this humbleness was what usually people associate with weakness, and I discovered it was what was giving me power. That state of surrendering, of devotion, of having an open heart was what was actually making me overcome my limitations and going further on. And so on that night, I feel I prayed to God as I rarely did in my life, and I just asked with all my being for help and support to do the impossible, to manage to continue and to reach as soon as possible the final destination in Fatima, and for God to guide me and to support me in the journey. I woke up much better, and it was quite extraordinary. Like I still felt tired, obviously, but I was much better and capable of continuing. And I had a new checkpoint. I had to push a bit more this day because I had to compensate a bit for the previous one. And at this point, I had, so I started from the main city, the capital of the country, Lisbon. So I gradually went through these places that are still kind of city-like, buildings and stuff. And then at this point of the journey, I was already basically in nature, so more inside of the country. And you would literally walk. It looks like the road is never ending. And you look back and you don't see anyone, and you look in front and you don't see anyone, and you look to the sides and it's just this beautiful nature and countryside, and that's it. There is no one there, there's nothing, and it's just you. And you also have this complete feeling that if a car would pass, or if someone would want to hurt me in any way, or if something would happen, that would be it. I wouldn't be capable of doing anything, of hiding anywhere. I was in the hands of God completely. And this, for me, that I'm a controller type in many ways, I still have some patterns there, and sometimes like I said, we think we are invincible and that we can outsmart everything. And then when you put yourself through these things, you realize, I'm so in control of everything. I'm far out from being in control of everything. Anything can happen to me right now. And that might look, from certain perspectives, might look a bit nuts. But actually, it connects you with very beautiful, universal, beneficial attributes like faith and the state of surrendering and trust and connection and devotion and love, and I don't even know what to... Humbleness, I said already. Courage also, a lot of courage. So it was very, very beautiful for me to go through this. And I walked, I gave my steps, and again, after, 5 hours, I was again crying, having a huge catharsis moment. My body started to really be tired, and then it started to look funny because I was sitting down like I cannot anymore, and then, okay, just a little bit more, and I would walk 10 steps, and then I had to sit down again, and for, maybe 2 hours, I was like this. Every 10, 20 steps, I had to sit. But I just had this goal. Okay, just don't stop. Sit, take your time, just don't stop, don't worry, just keep always going. And then at the end of the fourth, we are on the fourth day, I reached a small village that I didn't know, but it was already not in the middle of nowhere, so I managed to kind of reach a checkpoint. I didn't know if they had any place for me to sleep, and it was exactly at this time of sunset. And I sit down it was kind of this place where you have a little bench, not a park, but you have a bench, and then you have this view over the village and you can see the sunset. And again, there was no one there. For some reason, people were already inside the house or something. And it was super silent, no one, and I was kind of in the top of a little mountain, in the middle of mountains, and I was watching the sunset, and it was one of the most breathtaking moments I ever had, and the state of being able to reach so far, and I was sure I was going to make it on the next day, and I did. So the next day I reached the final destination, and I knew it with every cell of my being, but it was a state of grace, of feeling the grace of God, actually, and such a beauty that just taking few minutes to contemplate it deeply touches your soul and nourishes your heart so much, just to contemplate the beauty of nature. We should be able to have this state all the time in our life. We shouldn't need to do these things, to have it. We should have it naturally. But I needed this to learn how it is to find beauty and to be grateful for the slightest thing. Because I had this thing that, for example, I had to eat really only when I need it, because I had this rule of not spending many resources. Every meal I was deeply grateful to God that I could eat that, and I was tasting things differently. And then just that moment of that sunset and that landscape. We have sunsets every day, and yet they pass. they happen. And in that circumstance, in that moment, I was so present, I was so attentive, I was so in my heart that same landscape was just penetrating my soul. And then in that moment, I sit down to contemplate that view, and there was a street cat there, and it just came next to me in the direction of the sunset, and it was this feeling as if it was there just for me to feel I am not alone in such a beautiful moment as it was that one. And then the cat went away again, but it was just this feeling of that we are never alone even when we are alone, and it was very symbolic for me. Anyway, I don't want to there are some things that you cannot really transmit in words, like it's just something you feel deeply in your heart. And this little moment that I'm spending so much time talking about, it was one of the most beautiful and special and best moments of my life. And no one was there. I mean, it was not like something out of this world was happening, but for me it was connecting me with my deepest essence and to what really matters in this life. And it gave me a reference point to that state that I can invoke now every day and go back there and center in my heart again and to bring that experience to my daily life now. I managed, fortunately, to find a place to sleep. I went to a police station first asking for help, and then they recommended me this fireman station there, and they also kept an eye on me because by car the distance that I had left was quite it was quite small. Just walking it would take more, so they passed through me like 2 times when I was walking, and they were like saying goodbye and kind of just to checking that I would be safe and that it would be good. And so on the next day I safely arrived to the destination, and I had a chance to finish and successfully reach the place where Maria appeared in Fatima. We all have this, I think when we do such thing, we have this expectation a bit of how we will feel or what's going to happen when we reach there, and honestly, I reached there and I was of course very happy and in that, deepening that state, but I tell you, there was no fireworks, no reward immediately, yeah, check, I did it. There was nothing like, no selfies, there was, it was not that spectacular in an external way as you would maybe imagine in the beginning. And I realized that the biggest treasure was not there in the end waiting for me. That the biggest treasure was the journey. The journey was the treasure. All those challenges and experiences I had to go through until I reached there. And when I finally reached, just to finalize, I had a beautiful moment also, because the purpose of this journey was related with men, with burning some karma of mistakes in relationships. And of course my dad, also being masculine and representing this masculine energy, was also related in a way. And so it was very symbolic that he called me when I arrived, and he told me that he could pick me up and bring me by car to Lisbon back. And I said yes, but at the end of the day, so that I could spend the day there and just contemplate being in that place. And then at the end, it was already night, he went. Something in what I did deeply touched his soul. And so he came to me and he hugged me, and it was the first time I watched my father cry. And he couldn't speak. He was just in this state of catharsis himself, that I went through so much during the journey, and then I was serene and peaceful somehow in that moment. And he also couldn't speak, but it was triggering in him this reaction, let's say. And it was one of also the most beautiful moments as father and daughter that we shared together, and also very meaningful at the end of this journey. I can tell you that making this pilgrimage was one of the best experiences of my life, but especially because it was something I experienced directly that put me in contact with what really matters. This is not just a theory, this is something that we can experience ourselves. This connection with a higher source, with this supreme consciousness, it's something very possible at will, that we can establish that if we just focus and tune into that. And then of course work to deepen more and more that relationship through everything we do, because for a while I had this issue that then I wanted more, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do pilgrimage my whole life, and it's not like that. Like, that was good to have one experience. I have a reference point, and now the idea is how me, through work, in everyday life, in my relationships, everything, how can I have that same state as if I would be doing that? And if you look carefully, you will see how many similarities, and how in reality our whole life, this whole journey, is actually a pilgrimage, and that we are on it, we are walking towards that final destination, even if we are not aware of it. So I felt to make this video. Some people will not be so open to it and to hear me speak about God so straightforward and all these things, but honestly, this is me being authentic and telling you one of the most amazing, beautiful, meaningful experiences I ever had in my life. And this is the attitude I'm aiming to have in my life right now, is how to perceive my life as a pilgrimage, how to realize it, and how can I constantly have that state in everything I do. Maybe you are having a busy day, you don't really want to sit and meditate, or you don't want to practice yoga postures or something like this, but praying is something that is unique to all of us. We all have our way to pray. For me, prayer is this heart prayer to God, and we can express ourselves in our own words and relate in our unique way. And this is at distance of a wish. So it's something you can do anytime, anywhere. No one needs to know. And remind ourselves of the value and gift of being capable of being humble and with an open heart, and have this state of devotion and surrendering to life. It's something that can always make our life more beautiful and better, and to feel always supported, that we are never alone, and that we can think we can outsmart and plan our life millimetrically, but life will happen, and we are not in control as much as we would like to believe. And so this connection with the purpose of it, and with the meaning of it, and with God, is very useful, and it's very beautiful, and it's something I totally recommend you to explore if you didn't do it by now, and to open yourself towards it in your own way. Thank you so much for watching.